Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's Hump Day. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to Wednesday. Timstradamus, what do you say when you catch a ghost?
I there be a ghost?
I got you, boo.
That's better.
Yeah.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, why don't we jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew. What did you make today?
I made you a real treat. I made you a tea that has ginger, apple, mango, peaches, hibiscus, rosehip, and a little bit of orange blossoms.
Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, a 10 out of 10, says I.
Ooh, I like that. You can go ahead and take me anywhere, Jack Sparrow.
Savvy.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right in then. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling my sister nobody cares what she names her kids as much as she does? My sister, Laurel, 30 female, had her second child a month ago. Her oldest is 14 months old. During Laurel's first pregnancy, she was asking different family members, except me, if they were dying to know what she was calling her baby, and whether they wanted to guess the names she had chosen. One or two maybe gave guesses, but everyone told her that they could wait until she and her husband were ready to announce. Her oldest, her son, she named Theodore. Her daughter is Mildred. During the second pregnancy, she was very much asking the same questions, still not to me. She got pretty much the same responses this time from those she asked as well. A few days ago, we were gathered for our brother's birthday, and Laurel was asking if anyone had any thoughts on her kids' names. I did not consider myself included in this because she did not look at me, but looked at everyone else. People were like, not really. But things were ever so slightly awkward. Laurel asked why nobody was excited to find out her kids' names and why nobody had a big reaction. Her brother said he guessed what her kids' names would be like because of how she named her dogs, Dorothy, Stanley, and Eleanor, and he said she never hid the fact she likes really old names from anyone. Laurel was like, what is that supposed to mean? The really old names part. My brother shrugged. Nobody else answered. Laurel got upset and said she had expected a lot more excitement and enthusiasm for everyone except for me, because I like weird trendy names, but that she thought everyone else would say what great taste she had in names. I told her nobody cares what she named her kids except for her. Nobody ever cares about what other people name their kids unless it's really crazy or they really care about names and stuff. She said that was so rude of me to say, and I was behaving like the bratty little sister who had no taste at all. Am I the a-hole?
'Tis peak, my lord. A great way to kick off Hump Day. All right, so let's jump into the story. OP shouldn't tell us her age, but she does have an older sister who's 30.
Correct.
She's had 2 kids now. Mm-hmm. The eldest is 14 months, and her newest baby is 2 months?
1 to 2 months.
Okay. Fairly fresh.
I believe 1 month, but...
And she takes great pride in the name she's picked for her children. Like I think most parents do.
Yes.
To the extent our sister here is a little weird, but let's get into the story. I guess throughout her pregnancies, she was getting the family to guess the names that she had picked. And it sounds like ROP's sister was not getting the type of reaction that she was looking for from her family, because I guess she asked many times to numerous family members, take guesses at the names.
Well, actually in the comments, our OP does state, the family have been excited for the babies, and there has been a general buzz about her being pregnant and having kids. She and mom were together almost every day for her pregnancies, but she cared a lot about being told she liked good names. Maybe people criticized her taste before and she was feeling insecure or something. I'm not sure. So it seems like there was excitement about her having the kids.
So are we saying the reason why she was at the level she was with these names and needing people to maybe reinforce her, is it because of her past with people in these type of names?
Possibly. If anything, at least our OP did say that she did have support from her family by being excited that she was having babies and supporting her through the pregnancy.
I think that's really wrong for you to put on other people's shoulders, especially when ROP is correct. And what she did say to her sister is that no one cares about the names you picked for your kids unless they're very weird or wrong. But anyway, back to the story. She goes to a birthday party that's for her brother that they're throwing.
Correct.
Now ROP gets to this birthday party with her 2 kids, and I guess she's telling them that she can't believe they couldn't guess the names that she had picked for her 2 children.
More like why they weren't excited about the names that she had picked for her children.
Okay. But the thing that's really interesting is she may have that need for the validation, but she's also throwing it in our OP's face that she only likes fad names that are current.
Which I think is really...
So she's seeking validation for the old school names that she's using.
But then she's trying to invalidate her younger sisters.
And that's what I'm trying to get at is how are you doing that to someone when you're seeking it from them? You seem like you like a lot of attention, and I'm sorry that you didn't get the amount that you were seeking from this whole thing. I can see where that can get annoying as the family being around you and all you're doing is asking me to guess the name of your children. And then I think we've all been in that situation where someone goes, guess, take a guess about whatever it was. You took a guess. It wasn't right. And then they kept asking you to guess because we're all mind readers. And at some point,
but there's only a handful of names in the whole world.
Totally. And at some point though, that does grate on you and the enthusiasm, you're destroying it. Like, as long as you don't name it garbage, I'm pretty cool. Like, shout out to The Office.
I love The Office.
If
Dwight
you know,
is amazing.
You know. I don't see where the OP is wrong, only because it got to where it got to, right? It sounds like she pushed past everyone's comfortability with it. I think that our OP is not the a-hole. She probably only said what she said because this was happening at a birthday party that had nothing to do with her or her children. And you have to understand that there's a time and a place for things. I do appreciate the names though. I just don't like how she's looking at other people and going, my names are great, but your names are crap.
And the consensus on Reddit, our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, there were a lot of Redditors that said, let's go ahead and roleplay this. Oh, come on, guess. Why aren't you excited to guess? I see your point.
Yeah, like I said, it can grade you down. And
some actually said you should have just guessed the dogs' names.
Ooh,
I know,
man.
a little bit below the belt.
Can
but
you imagine? Oh,
they're very unique names for dogs.
They are, but you would only be saying that to her with that behind it.
Now, I think a lot of individuals rallied behind this was an event that wasn't for your children. It was your brother's birthday. And he says, you can guess because you like old names. She took that comment offensively right off the bat. And then on top of that, as you pointed out, try to invalidate her sister's tastes. It kind of shows what kind of person she's showing to her family right now. I come back to, she just had her kid a month ago. I wonder if she's just starting to deal with postpartum.
I don't know. And it might be, maybe that's where she's seeking.
Trying to get the validation because she's starting to experience this. It's almost like any kind of choice you have that is a detrimental choice is you wonder if you made the right one, which is the reason why she's trying to validate her choice.
Sure, and that could be what it is. But even if you are going through those things, you're doing it at someone's birthday party.
It's a bit rude, yeah.
Even if you are, there are certain things you have to be aware of. I can be empathetic to it, but at a certain point, you do have to be an adult and understand that you're out in public, you're at a birthday party. Conduct yourself likewise.
I have to question, because I brought these points just to go ahead and roll us through the different situations. The way that our poster writes is that her sister's always like this.
Yes.
And has ignored her younger sister because she just doesn't want to hear her opinions or her viewpoints, which I think is honestly pretty rude in my opinion. If you're asking all the family, but you're avoiding the one person that you you believe doesn't have your kind of tastes in mind, it kind of seems rude. Like you're almost ostracizing them.
Well, then wouldn't that go ahead and X out that theory that she's only acting like this because she's getting postpartum?
Exactly.
It's just who she is.
That's where I continue to go back and forth on this. I was wondering, and when I first read this, if it was, well, she had a child a month ago, could she be experiencing these emotions and needing this validation? And maybe it could be some warning sign to her family. But based on how our OP is writing, it's like her sister is trying to swipe her feet from under her and invalidate her viewpoints and her standpoints. And has it always been this way if this is how she's writing? If that's the case, then we're talking about the character of her sister and not just the experience that she's going through at this one period in her life.
Sure. Well, we can only hope that it's just because she gave birth to 2 kids within 24 months. Maybe that's played a little more into this whole thing. But if our OP is saying that this is just who she is, then unfortunately that's just who she is.
Well, I don't think we'll ever get some clarity into that 100%. But for this one action, I think our OP had the right to go ahead and say her standpoint. The name that you give your child or a pet is supposed to be intimate between you and them, not between you and the world to go ahead and approve of it. So I kind of stand behind what she says, and this is something that truly only you care for. Well, let's go ahead and go to our next story and see what's happening here, shall we? Am I the a-hole for not wanting to attend my grandfather's wedding because he no-showed mine? My grandfather is 82 years old. The day before my wedding, he was a last no-show because his girlfriend of only 7 months passed away of a brief illness. My family was absolutely furious. My mother most of all. I understand people have the right to grieve, but it caused a lot of issues before my big day. I feel selfish for feeling this way, but has caused feelings of betrayal and hurt. Now he found another woman, got engaged, and he wants to supposedly tie the knot on Christmas Eve this year. This makes me feel upset still that he didn't show. Am I wrong to feel ticked off about this upcoming wedding? To add a little info, I am going to be married 1 year this December if this helps.
Oh my Lanta. Let's get into the story. OP got married in December and he invited his 82-year-old grandfather to attend. Now, unfortunately, the reason as to why he could not attend the wedding was because his girlfriend at the time passed away.
Correct.
And they'd been together for 7 months. Now, apparently the entire family didn't understand that. And despite someone that he's been with in a relationship passing away, he, the grandfather, needed to be at that wedding regardless. Can you hear something wrong in that sentence?
Oh, I heard it.
Okay. I cannot understand for the life of me how selfish not only is ROP, but the entire rest of their family. Your grandfather, who is 82, found someone at that age to be happy with, and they passed away. And your response to him was, you should have been at my wedding.
Yes, their exact thing is, I understand people have the right to grieve, but it caused a lot of issues before my big day.
I am blown away by this type of selfishness. Again, not by just OP. The entire family was reinforcing OP. That's terrible. You guys suck. Seriously, I'm baffled that they would post this on the internet. I feel bad for your grandfather. The only good thing I heard out of this story was that your grandfather has found another person to love. And he's getting married in December. And now you're wondering if you should go, is basically what ROP is asking.
Correct. I guess she would like to do a little tit for tat.
The fact that your Gramps is trying to invite you guys, even after what you guys pulled, I think you guys should all be ashamed of yourselves and be grateful that he's inviting you to the wedding. You're definitely the a-hole, along with your family.
Well, the consensus was overwhelmingly our OP's the a-hole. A few commenters said, how dare his partner die before your wedding? It really is pretty bad. A lot of individuals put out, it doesn't matter how long their relationship was. This was somebody that he was emotionally intimate with. The fact that you're trying to downplay it because for you, 7 months isn't long enough is crazy. And then on top of that, if he was able to find someone else to be happy with, good for him. He's 82. Allow him to enjoy that with someone if that's what offers him comfort and that they can comfort each other in this time. But don't make it selfish. Don't make it about you. The only one that's downplaying their own wedding is you.
Treating your gramps like that. You should just be happy for him. Making him feel bad because he couldn't come to the wedding because he was attending a funeral of someone he loved. Are you serious? Say that sentence out loud, OP. Get a grip.
Well, that seemed to have steamed you up a bit.
It's just like, come on with that.
Let's go ahead and go into our next story and see what you think about rejection. Am I the a-hole for not accepting rejection?
Uh-oh, that sounds really bad.
I'm cutting to the point. I don't like getting rejected. The moment a girl rejects me, any relationship or connection we have is dead to me. I know it's harsh, but it's the truth. Ever since I started being interested in girls, all they do is reject me or, quote-unquote, see me as a brother. I'm not interested in sticking around for that, to be honest. It happened to me last week with a girl I thought I had a chance of getting with. It crushed me, and I blocked her everywhere. One of her friends went up to me a few days later and got in my face about how I'm immature and how I threw her away and don't value her. I just walked away from her. I'm so fucking sick of this shit happening to me. Rejection is fucking horrific at this point. And all I get for not accepting it is shit. I don't even lash out. I just do what's best for everyone and cut contact with them. And still I get shit on for not valuing them and shit. I just don't want to waste my time and energy on lost causes. Anyway, are they right? Am I the a-hole who doesn't value girls?
Mamma mia. Okay. Wow. I guess we'll start with this. ROP is suffering from friend zone syndrome, and he says it happens quite a lot. Now, I don't like when he says this newest girl thought he had a shot of getting with. I don't know what he means by that. Are we talking just purely sexual? Or are we talking about dating? Because I'm not sure. It doesn't come across what exactly he's trying to do.
He doesn't specify like that.
Because when someone says get with, normally that only means in a physical sense, but I could be wrong. Times have changed.
All that he says is he's not interested in friendships.
And where I'm hoping he's coming from, because does he say his age? Because he sounds very young.
He says quite a lot in the comments, but not his age.
Okay.
One of his comments was, yeah, so flattering to be considered 100% non-sexual entity in the eyes of women. Every man dreams of being around women who don't desire him in any meaningful way.
All right. So I guess my piece of advice to ROP, you got to work on yourself. Before you can start thinking about relationships, regardless of what age you are, work on yourself first. Because it kind of sounds like to me that you don't even like who you are. How is someone else going to like you if you don't like you? Because my thing is, he's saying that he's getting now attacked by the women that he's ghosting after he figures out that he doesn't have a shot with them.
Correct. He says in the comments, why would he willingly torture himself and waste his time trying to build connections?
But see, even in that sentence, it doesn't make any sense. You're building connections. Just because you can't be with a woman romantically doesn't mean that they're not worthy of being a friend. That blows my mind. You know, most of my relationships when I was growing up came from being friends first. It wasn't because I was seeking anything outside of that. And I think maybe, unfortunately for ROP, he's not seeing that women are more than just something to be in a romantic relationship with, and that's where he's dropping the ball. But if all you're going to do is walk up to a woman and go, are you interested in me? Of course, every single one of them is going to turn you away. And I hate saying it because it is a very true statement. There's not a bigger turnoff than someone who is desperate. And he's going down a dark path here where I'm just not going to be accepting of rejection. But how are you going about those relationships when you're trying to start them? Please don't tell me you're just walking up to them and saying, look, do you see me as attractive, or am I physically attractive to you? Can we get in a relationship before you even gotten to know them? Because that's what it sounds like these are turning into. Of course, no one's going to jump on board. But before I go any further, did he talk to anyone? Was there any questions asked to? Because sometimes we can actually flesh out, we can flesh out some of these posters by their interactions with people.
So when he went ahead and started answering some people who said that his viewpoint is extreme, he said, why is that extreme? Maybe it's rude, but who actually wants to stick around while she fucks other dudes, just torturing yourself? He also says, I just can't fathom how someone thinks friendship is an acceptable thing to expect after rejecting someone. So one Redditor actually put out, you're extremely hateful, essentially. And he says, how am I hateful? I could stick around, torture myself, and build hatred, but I take the mature way out and just cut them out. What do you do when you're faced with disappointment? Do you honestly just stick around and torture yourself for someone else's ego?
Why would building a friendship with someone that's meaningful be torturous? If that's really the type of game you want to play with your life, you're never going to get anywhere. It sounds like you have no real social skill when it comes to dating. Yes, dating is a numbers game. You are going to date a lot of people in your life. But if you're unwilling to see that you're the problem and you're not working on yourself, you're never going to find someone, not that way.
So he actually puts another comment that says, yeah, because that won't get me called a creep. Girls say that I want a friendship before dating, yet they fuck me over when I give them that. Some person called him out by saying, but you didn't give them that because the friendship was always a lie on your part.
Yes, it was a trap. And the second he didn't get what he wanted from it, which would have been something romantic or physical, he shut the door, which makes you a creep. That's the definition of it. He's like, oh, I'm not a creep if I just walk away. No, you showed them who you are. You're only there because there's a physical promise. And once that physical promise is no longer there, you dip. I don't understand why he doesn't see it.
Well, let's go ahead and hear your verdict for this one.
Well, I mean, he's 100% the a-hole. You can't walk through life like that.
The consensus on here was that he's definitely the a-hole. And let me go ahead and give you some edits that he put into his post. He said, didn't expect this huge reaction. Apparently, I'm just an a-hole because I think it's ridiculous for girls to expect friendship after basically shitting all over you, and that they are then entitled to ruin your reputation if you disregard them from that point on. I expected some blowback, but not such a united front against torturing yourself after already getting fucked by rejection.
He's got a very negative view on life.
And then on top of that, he actually puts another edit and says, fuck it, not gonna argue anymore. Fuck this shit. All you taught me is that apparently women can treat guys like dog shit, and the guy is at fault for thinking friendship is substandard or not worth it. No point arguing. I think the problem, at least in regards to all of this, is that he doesn't value friendship when it's the opposite sex.
Sure.
It's only when it's within the same sex. So if it's another male, he sees the value in that because he can understand it.
It just sounds like we got a young kid who's been watching way too much social media and has a very weird, skewed way of looking at what a relationship is and what women mean to a man or vice versa. Because it's definitely like a goal was that he sleeps with her. And if it doesn't meet this goal, then nothing else within the interaction that they have is worthy of him. And now it sounds like he hates women.
Yes.
And that's an issue, especially if you want to have a relationship with a woman. It kind of goes against it. And women and men can feel that.
Oh, yes. Hands down.
I kind of will leave this off with this message. It sounds like our OP has been hurt in the past. And maybe he did get used a little more than you should.
And that's regrettable.
But it sounds like he's generalizing that pain and that hurt that he received and putting it on everyone else he encounters now. And I got to tell you, you can't do that. Especially if you are looking for a real, true connection with somebody and in a relationship that's going to be meaningful going forward.
And healthy.
I think for him, maybe he does have, and I hate this for a lot of young people, all y'all keep using each other up and everyone is so jaded and they're getting more jaded younger. I can understand there are a lot of people that will just use each other and that sucks. And so it's hard for me as someone that's well removed from the dating world and not having walked through what social media has done to that landscape. You and I didn't grow up with the cell phone and all of the problems that all these kids have come up with.
Oh, yeah, no.
That wasn't like that.
No.
So me telling them, because they have so much access now, you're getting through so many people all of a sudden. My biggest piece of advice is, I understand that there might have been a lot of people on the road that you're on that have done you wrong. But by you treating other people the way they treated you, especially the ones you start bumping into now, you're never going to get out of life what you want. And I understand, again, that's very hard for me to tell people, but he sounds very jaded and hurt, but you can't keep giving that to people that you bump into. Not if you want something meaningful out of life. Now, I'm not saying only relationships can give you that, but it sounds like that's what's important to him now, but he's not going to get to that if all he's doing is walking up to everyone going, am I dating material? You can't do that, even if you have been used.
I agree. It doesn't go only for one side. It goes for both sides.
Sure.
It's rough. The dating scene now, I feel, is harder because there's all these unprecedented expectations between people. And they're ridiculous. I never went into our relationship with a bunch of expectations, Timstradamus. I accepted you fully. And I love all of you, all of your perfections and all your faults. I wish that others would see that. Well, I hope that this OP has been able to come to terms and maybe has grown a bit. I know a lot of the feedback when it came to this post was pretty rough. Some of it was very nice and honest. Some of it was pretty harsh.
It just sounds like he needs to get his butt into some type of counseling and get through that anger that he's got, because you're going to carry it into every other thing in your life, and it does you no good.
Agreed. Well, let's go to our next story and see the view. Am I the a-hole for blocking an Airbnb's view of my home? I've already posted this asking for legal advice, but thought I'd ask for moral advice too. Last year, we bought a historical property with a fair-sized chunk of land. The previous owners had ran it as a small hotel but couldn't keep up with the pace at their age anymore. We turned the property back into a private residence. A main country road runs right by the longest edge of the unfenced garden, so we decided to plant hedges for privacy and to block off access in case my nephews visit and play football, etc. There is a small gardener's cottage right at the edge of this line, which was sold separately when we bought our home. We made sure to keep any bushes between us and them on our side of the property. We were unaware that the elderly couple had sold the cottage to a relative of theirs and that he had planned to turn it into an Airbnb. We only know this now as after a summer of growth, the owner had finally noticed the small hedge and realized what we'd done. He and the couple have sent official-looking letters stating we are impeding their reasonable enjoyment of the property, as they had planned to market the cottage as part of the property with views of a historical landmark, and once our hedge is full height, that view will be greatly diminished if not almost entirely gone. So, am I the a-hole for potentially damaging someone's income by planting these hedges?
All right. Titillating, milady.
'Tis peak.
All right. So OP says they bought a historical home from an elderly couple that could no longer run their business because they turned that home into a B&B or hotel. So they sold it to our OP. And I guess there was a cottage that was on the same property that they had sold to other relatives.
Correct.
So now, having done that, those are two separate properties. They are not one property.
Right.
Okay. That's the thing I'm trying to make sure that I understand correctly. Now, P's saying that the owners of the cottage now are coming to them because once they bought this historical home, they no longer wanted to use it as it was being used prior. They didn't want to make it a hotel. They were making it their home. So they wanted to make it private. They put up hedges. And as those hedges grow, it'll make it more private. I don't see a problem with that. It's your home. He says it. those hedges were put on their side. It is on their property. So when is it ever okay to tell someone what to do with their property? Especially if it's within guidelines of whatever city or ordinances they have going on, right? Because I believe if they had been told by the city or an HOA or whatever that those hedges couldn't exist there, then they couldn't have. But that's not what's happening. It's someone else, a neighbor, telling you what you can put on your property.
Never.
Okay. I don't understand the entitlement that this couple has that are now neighbors to something that I guess maybe their grandparents or someone owned in their family. They think for some reason that they have a right to use their property to be gawked at by strangers because now they're using that cottage and using it as an Airbnb.
I find it funny that you say that because inside the comments section, our OP actually puts the reason why they put the hedges up is because they know that the house is nice and it's fairly in the middle of nowhere. When cars and people walk by, they stare in because they're so curious and they feel like they're in a zoo.
I could understand. That's an invasion of privacy. No one wants to feel like they live in a fishbowl. So they're asking for a little bit of privacy and you're getting worked up about someone asking for privacy? Really? Not okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. That's funny how he's like, they gave us some pretty official looking papers.
You can send pretty official looking papers back.
I'll photocopy a picture of my middle finger. Pretty official.
Well, the consensus is OP's not the a-hole. In fact, some Redditors said, you should add a 12-foot wall and a moat with Crocs and a drawbridge just to make your point. In the end, it's as simple as your property, your choice.
Take down those plants, please, because I need for my guests to see into your home.
I'd probably get really cheeky and I'd take a picture and I'd send it to them and say, hopefully your guests enjoy this picture. Just put it up on the wall.
Yep.
Historical views. Well, let's go to our very last story of the day. Am I the a-hole for ending my childcare agreement with my sister because I don't want to care for her future stepkids who I have never met? I, 27 female, am a stay-at-home mom to my 2 little boys, ages 5 and 1. I also take care of my sister's 2 children, ages 8 and 6 after school and during summer break. She sends snacks for all the kids and pays me a small amount of money. I never asked for a lot because it was never a big deal to me and I enjoyed seeing my niece and nephew. But now things have changed. My sister is engaged and her future husband lives out of state with his 2 children. My sister already told me they are hoping I would take care of them. I asked when I would be meeting the kids and she says they fly in just before the wedding and I would start right away. I told her I would like to get to know the kids first. And she said they want to start out on the right path with being a blended family, and that means treating the kids the same. She said they want them to have that after school time together. I told her I understood, but I would not be comfortable with taking care of the kids for extended periods of time when I do not know them and will have to meet them 1 or 2 times before they would be placed in my care, and I would not be comfortable. My sister asked why I can't just embrace a big change and throw myself in. I told her if she was willing to give me some time to get to know the kids, she said no. So I told her firmly that she would need to find someone else to take care of the kids. My sister told me I was really showing that I only consider family those who are related by blood. But I would feel the same if my brother came back home after several years and asked me to watch his kids who I have never met and they're blood related. For me, it's just a position that requires a close existing relationship for me to be okay with. Am I the a-hole though?
What a spicy meatball! Oh, I'm frustrated for our OP. So let's put ourselves in those shoes. We have 2 kids of our own. They're fairly young.
Oh, yes.
And we've agreed to watch your sister's other 2 kids.
Correct.
That's 4 children. I'm imagining it's probably 5 days a week. And in the summer, it's the same. So that's 4 kids you're watching. And she says that she's being given a little bit of money and that the sister pays for like snacks. So I'm certain that that little bit of money is probably a very little bit of money. Because family tends to do that to each other. They kind of shortchange you and go, well, it's family. For OP, though, she said she didn't mind because she actually liked doing it. Great. It worked out for everyone in this specific situation. But that's because our OP is a little more understanding than I think she should be. Those are 2 extra kids that I'm sure she's not being compensated fairly for.
Probably not.
And because of the way her sister has treated her to this point, she thought it was acceptable to then have 2 other kids join on this, because she's now getting married to someone that has been out of state, and all of a sudden now our OP is just supposed to be okay with watching 2 other kids that she doesn't know. How many problems arise when you're dealing with kids you have no idea about?
A lot.
We're talking about allergies, what they can eat, if there's any problems going on health-wise.
Or if they'd even get along with the other kids.
That's another turn. Our OP sister just thinks, by the way, when we get married, day 1, you're going to start watching these kids for me. Hopefully you're okay with that. And then our OP tells her, hey, let me meet the kids first. I think that's more than an okay request to have. Get to know them maybe 1 or 2 times before. See if they gel with you. Learn about what it is that they can do and eat.
The activities they enjoy.
Like, there's so much stuff. It's not just picking up a child and like dropping him in and going plug and play. But you can definitely tell by the sister in this situation. She's very selfish and very controlling. Like I said,
manipulative.
To the point where she thought it was acceptable to say, watch 2 extra kids you don't know about. So now we went from ROP being responsible for 2 children. Then she got 4, and now she's at 6. 4 of them are not her children. Would you be okay with that?
Not without getting to know them.
Even if you got to know them 5 days out of a week, 8+ hours.
I would have to be fairly compensated, but as long as everything jived correctly, you're a little harsher on that than I am.
I think people take advantage of family, and you can see that through this.
I agree with that as well.
You've got to put your foot down. And I'm happy ROP, it sounds like even when her sister wasn't trying to at least be meeting her halfway on what she wanted, she was still okay with going, look, I'll watch them. Just let me meet them first. She has no respect for you, OP. In this regards, OP, I do not believe you're the a-hole.
So the consensus? Our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, there were some questions from our Redditors regarding the kids. Has she met this father? She confirmed that her sister has met who she's going to be marrying, apparently. But she's also confirmed those 4 children have never met each other.
Boy.
So essentially, he's going to be moving in with his kids into her home, and they're going to blend their families like a TV dinner that's going in the microwave. And
So-
apparently it's just going to work out and come out as a 5-star Michelin restaurant meal.
So our OP is supposed to be the one that gets them all to get along and learn how to be a family now.
Correct.
That's terrible.
Her concern was, what if the kids actually end up hating each other, or if there's a lot of tension?
That's not something you put in someone else's hands. First impressions are very important.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. I bet you there are some families that have done it.
Sure.
But those are very few rare gems in the world that's actually happened.
But just given the attitude our sister in this situation has, do you think she's capable of that when she's going beyond boundaries with her own sister?
I think it's absolutely rude that she says, we want to blend them, and you not doing it how we want means that you care more about blood than not.
Well,
That is such a blow to our OP's character, because she's trying to let you know, hey, it's already going to be emotionally taxing. Let me get to know these kids and see if everything's going to be okay when they're in my care.
I agree with that. I think the most outlandish thing the sister said to our OP was probably just embrace the big life change. It's not her life that's changing like that. It's yours. How selfish is that?
Very selfish.
Man. OP, I agree with your decision. Stick with it.
I second that.
What was our last story?
That was our last story.
Your stories for Hump Day were Chef's Kiss.
Thank you.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
We would like to go ahead and thank all of our Patreons for your continued support. We truly 100% appreciate it. And if you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, or follow, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
As always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
Which one was it that caught you off guard?
There's actually 2 or 3 of them. I was like, oh, you're bad people. Leave your Gramps alone. Jeez, he found love.
Oh, rejection. Never saw it in that light.
I hope he grows up.
I hope so too.
Get someone that leads him the right way. That's our TED Talk.
TED Talk.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
You sound like Krusty the Krab.
Me money, Squidward.